we go. So hello, everybody, again. I'm Tim Mangan from T-Mergent Technologies. Great to be back here again in the Netherlands. Seems like it's my home away from home. All right, let's try that button. How about that one? All right. So a year ago, I was up here on this stage, and I put this slide up as the last piece. I declared this was the beginning of the year of MSIX. That MSIX was now ready for the enterprise as their first choice for packaging up applications. Not perfect, absolutely not, but it was good enough now to be number one. So what's happened since then? A month later, I was in Hamburg, Germany, at a conference there run by the German group from NIC IT, and Microsoft was there. And they announced the cancellation of the end of life of AppV. Big surprise. Did not see that one coming. It was not on my bingo card for 2024. So they did make some changes. So for those of you who didn't quite catch up on that news, the AppV client is staying in the operating system, and the AppV sequencer will continue to be supported. But the AppV server still stays end of life in April of next year. So this does give customers some breathing room. What I did talk about last year is how we're starting to see a little bit of the decline in the capabilities of AppV because no new development has happened for quite a number of years at this point. And we're starting to see some of the newer applications start to have a little bit of problems. Some of those written in .8 and .NET 9. That wasn't a thing the last time the sequencer was worked on. So we do see a few apps that are newer that we're starting to have some issues with. And since that time, I've been hearing from customers this year about some additional issues in terms of working with Windows 11 24H2 specifically and having some compatibility problems. So Microsoft is supporting the product, and some of that may get fixed. Some of that may not. We'll have to wait and see. I do know that there is not a single developer, to my knowledge, at Microsoft that is assigned a full-time job to work on AppV. So as they have these things, they're going to have to find some people who have the experience to be able to come in and work on them. So that continues to be a little bit of concern. But there are some choices in terms of how you deliver those AppV applications. Our friends at Vantix, who are here with a booth, have a nice little product they've had for quite a number of years, which is an alternative to the AppV server. And it'll serve up both AppV and MSIX applications for you, and it's something that you may want to consider. If you're a Citrix customer, you can use their technology to deploy both the AppV and the MSIX applications as well. If you are on AVD, if you were at the keynote today with Christian, right, we have AppAttach. Jim's here. He's going to be talking about AppAttach for both MSIX and AppV. And you can use that as a way to distribute it. If we're talking about persistent machines, whether they're physical or of VDI, that is persistent. Intune remains a great opportunity as a way to deliver those applications too. So you have a lot of different ways to get your applications out there. Now, the big surprise to me is that I've been telling customers for a number of years, AppV is end of life is coming. You should start working on MSIX. It's going to take you a little bit of time to get used to it. You should get moving. And they really weren't doing that very much. And then Microsoft announced the end of life not happening on AppV in November. And on January 1st, my phone started ringing off the hook. And these are showing here the number of trainings that we've done in past years. And this year, I'm doing between 2 and 3 times the number of trainings that I've done in any of the last years. And almost all of those customers are people who are now ready to move from AppV. I think the bosses that were up above were saying, let's deal with this Windows 10 migration thing first. And when they got to 2025, they said, okay, now we're about a year away, we're ready to go, even if Microsoft may have changed the rules here a little bit. So this is the compatibility chart for MSIX that I put out each year. This is the chart from last January. I sort of previewed it here last year. I said, I think we're probably going to hit the 90% mark this year. And in fact, we did. We were just a little over the 90%. And I was quite happy with that. Am I satisfied with that? Of course not. Of course, I'm not satisfied with that. We've got to continue to do better, and I'm sure we will. I've done a number of things this year already. Usually by this point in the year, I have some idea of where we'll be at the end of the year. I've done some preliminary runs to see how well we're doing with the changes. I haven't had time to do that this year because I'm just doing way too many training classes right now. Right now, I'm on a 5-week tour here of Europe, 5 straight weeks of training classes. But we will do a little bit better. But my focus this year has been really more on making it easier to achieve these numbers as opposed to doing more and more in terms of the compatibility. I think this is a good year to take a step back and just try to make it easier for you to take advantage of the tooling to make this happen. I've also been doing continuation of research. So Microsoft, although they have not really advanced their Microsoft MSIX packaging tool, we haven't seen a release now for about a year and a half, more than a year and a half. They're really kind of depending on the third parties that they have as partners to sort of fill the gaps on that. But Microsoft has been doing a lot of work under the covers, and they've been extending the MSIX schemas, and they've been doing a lot of things in the operating system under the covers. Now, what they haven't done is a very good job of making it known all of the good work that they've been doing. They're not out evangelizing that work. And so we've been having to go out and discover that. So a couple of years ago, I discovered the install location virtualization, which we now use an awful lot as a way to provide the ability to have files inside the package, get updates to them, and overwrite and go into the user's profile area with those changes. But this year, we started taking a look at what Microsoft calls flexible virtualization. And there were 2 parts to it, and I wrote a couple of white papers. The first one here is on file system write redirection. And this allows us to do things like, MSIX wants to allow the users to change files, but it wants to redirect them into the user's local app data packages folder for that package. I have some apps that need that data to be visible outside of the package. I want that stuff to go to the regular app data local or app data roaming folder where the application would have put it. And flexible virtualization with the file system write allows us to be able to do that. Now, if you're starting to think, this is my solution for my roaming profile problem, great. I don't have to worry about putting up special rules in FSLogix or whatever. Read the white paper, because I don't think it's a good idea to just think, I'm going to turn this on every single MSIX package. Like, it's probably going to cause you some problems. So you have to use it sparingly, but where you need to. The counterpart to that is in the registry, a registry write virtualization. And this helps bring over a feature that we were missing from AppV, where AppV had the ability to punch through holes in the virtualization on certain registry things. So it would go straight down to the operating system level and into the system registry. And so we now have that capability in MSIX as well. So one of the good things that we have going on right now is we're getting a lot of choice. This is a space in which the vendors aren't like all against each other that are out here. We're actually kind of working together somewhat. So yes, you can do this process by using the Microsoft MSIX packaging tool and then using something like TMEditX as a way to improve that package. When we use TMEditX to do this, we're letting Microsoft do what they do well in terms of the original capture. Maybe doesn't get us the best package in the world, but we can take that tool in and we can do an analysis on it. And what we do in TMEditX is we take a look at everything that the application installer put in that package for the purpose of integrating with the operating system and the end user and other applications. And we understand all of those pieces, and then we understand what the capabilities of MSIX is in its full glory. All of the extensions that Microsoft has put in that they haven't put into the packaging tool yet. And we sort of map that out and we fix up the package and make that happen. But we can also do it with some other tools that are out there. Advanced Installer has a great way to create packages, either from scratch or from a recapture type of process. Admin Studio does the same. Master Packager does this. We're also doing some integrations with Jariba, Remo 3, AppCure, and Efficient Ether, which is the one that we just announced about a week ago. These are all folks that have different ways to create that initial package, but they're all largely either doing their own thing with MSIX or they'll integrate with us. But we've done certifications against all of these vendors that we can take their packages in and use this as a tool to do the final fix-up. Okay. Additionally, this year, I've released a second package called TM-EditX Tools. So while TM-EditX is a licensed product, TM-EditX Tools is a free community set. And it has a couple of tools that are in it, and I'll show you what they're doing today. So even if you're using some of these other folks to do the packaging, like I was in the session with Bogdan a minute ago, and he was saying, you know, we can also take Tim's packages into our tool to do some stuff. And I think that's great, because none of us have all of the right answers. And I think all of us working together can try to improve each other and make ourselves better. Okay, so here's TM-EditX, and he gave me this, and I don't know how to move a mouse to turn the video on. Okay, he's got it going, good. All right, so what we're doing here is we're taking a package out of the Microsoft packaging tool. Looks like I took WinMerge, and we've done the analysis. And for the most part, what someone's gonna do is they're just gonna go hit that button by the green arrow. That is gonna take, and it's gonna do a set of things. We give you the ability to automate and just do the easy stuff, or do things yourself. So this is gonna do the pre-PSF configurations. It's figured out which of the PSF components that we need, and those can get added in. And then down below, we have a list of recommended fixes. So if we want, we can take a look at some more of the detail of what these are. Like here, we found an uninstaller in the product. So yeah, let's take that out of there, because they're not gonna wanna have that. There's a bunch of registry or file things that we've caught in the package beyond what the Microsoft packaging tool would have scanned out. Here we're seeing, okay, yeah, we probably need the MFR fix-up because we have some files that we believe that need to be written to. Quite often we'll see some files that the app can't access unless we bring that fix-up in. We also are gonna need the dynamic library fix-up. We see some COM things in here that Microsoft missed, and I found a way to make some of that stuff work inside the path. We have some app path registrations so that the user can type in the name of the app and get an alias that automatically launches the application. The packaging tool put in 2 copies of a shortcut, so there were gonna be 2 in the start menu. So we're gonna pull one of those out for you. And then we're gonna add install location virtualization, and because a lot of enterprises wanna make sure they don't have VC runtimes in the package, we'll pull those out as an optional thing that you can do. And then you would deploy the VC runtimes once natively on your systems as an easier way to manage it, so that when there is a vulnerability in those, you don't have to go back and touch all the packages. Okay, so when we're ready, we can just hit the default fixes. We can also do the individual ones if we want. So we're giving you the ability to go both ways. Some of the other things in here, we have the ability to change the capability settings on it, which occasionally we have to do, not very often. But you do get access to the full file system. You can remove files. You can edit them from the tool if you need to. And the same thing with the virtual registry. And the next tab is the assets. So if the icon capture from the packaging tool wasn't very good, you could replace that here. If we had multiple applications and they picked the wrong one to be the default, you could fix that. We could get rid of a start menu shortcut if we decided we didn't want to have it there. And we also provide a mapping between what did the application ask for originally in the start shut and what do we actually have in the manifest at this point. The Pitons tab does that for all of the other types of integrations, has entry points into the product, whether it's shell verbs, shell extensions, protocol handlers. Are there services in here? Does it try to integrate with event trace for Windows? Is there a control panel applet? All of those things. So we'll show you what's in the package and then what's available from the manifest at this point. Ultimately, if we have the PSF, we have a JSON file, so you can edit that if you want to customize it further. And the same thing with the AppX manifest file. When we're done, we just do a file save. We've put our code signing certificate in here, and so it's going to go ahead and not only save the package off, but sign and timestamp it for us. Now, everything you just saw there is also available from a command line. So I do a lot of stuff with automation, and I have a wonderful PowerShell script that's up on my GitHub called MSIX Packaging 2, and it gives you the ability to have a whole slew of applications. I've got 120 in my lab. I hit one button, and it goes to the packaging tool and does a remote capture for the installs. It then automatically fixes them up in TM-EditX, and I go out and play golf, maybe have a leisurely dinner, and then I have 120 packages ready for me to test. So we do have some good automation capabilities in here. Now, when you want to go to App Attach, the tab we just saw there was the Convert tab. So we have to first create an MSIX package and then change it into an image format. So we're supporting VHD, VHDX, and the new SIMFS format, which will perform a little bit better in your environment. But it's a simple conversion just like that, and then we're ready to go, and we're done with our editing. No, I didn't want to do that. I want to go there. Thank you. So I mentioned some of the other companies that are out here. So I've sort of broken them out here on the left, technology partners. So those are ones that we can work with their packagers. The ones in the middle there, all of they are folks who are providing, let's say, a higher level of functionality, not just the packaging, but they're doing something else also. And if you think about application lifecycle as a term you hear, a lot of these folks are doing that. And each of these have done an integration with TM-EditX. So they're using whatever they're doing in the way of their package capture, and then within their own console, they're providing you the button to go ahead and launch TM-EditX and fix up the packages. All right. So this is the MSIX report card. So if you went to tmurgent.com, look for the report cards. You can look for that. There will be another one out at probably around the end of January, and we'll see where we are in the industry at that point. Now, what do we do when we fix up these packages? I ran these numbers a few weeks ago just to try to give you a sense here of what we're doing to a number of different packages. For the large part, we're using installed location virtualization as our number one thing that we want to do. The PSF launcher is usually in most of those packages, and pretty much every time the launcher goes in, we bring in the Reg Legacy fix-up as well. That provides us as close of capability to what we had in AppV as we can get today. The MFR fix-up, again, is a very popular one. The COM activity, so I'm finding about 23% of the packages, there is some COM objects that the Microsoft packaging tool didn't quite get right, and we're bringing those pieces into the packages now. PSF FTA COM solves a problem that Microsoft created in the way they structured the AppX manifest file, and that gets us not only some of the COM things that we needed, but also when you have more than one application in the package that want to have a file type association with the same verb. So maybe it's an open and one to use it, and another one that's an editor. We couldn't do that before, so we had to figure out a way, and I had to create a component to do that. The environment variable fix-up is something I wrote to bring in those pieces, and we're seeing about 10% of the apps today that are using WebView 2, and that requires some special changes in the manifest, and you have to deploy the WebView 2 external native installer as part of your systems on the image or pushed out as a dependency package. About 60% of the ones that I'm running have services in them, and quite frankly, the services are working great. They're not a problem at all. I was very suspicious with the way Microsoft did it in MSIX. I liked the way it worked in AppV, but it turned out that this is really good. Not using much in the way of the flexible virtualization at this point, but we are seeing a few apps here and there where we need to use it, particularly some of those apps that are using the systems configuration style of writing their app settings. If they just use it straight out of the box the way they're supposed to, and like anything that's .NET 6, 7, 8, 9, that's what they're using to set their configuration rather than writing an INI file directly. We're seeing some .NET framework applications also using this. If they just do that, that's fine. In MSIX, we don't have to worry about it. It works great. But some of them are also, after using the settings interface, they're also using the file interface to go at it. And that's causing us some problems. And that's where flexible virtualization comes into play to fix those issues. Okay, so I mentioned the new package, community tools, TMEdX tools. It's got two pieces in it, MSIX deploy and PSF debug. I'll show you both of those here. So these are used after the packager has created his package and he wants to go and test the package locally on his machine. If we could start this video as well, please. First, we'll see MSIX deploy. So those of you who'd worked with my AppV stuff in the past, the AppManage product, this is the equivalent of AppManage for MSIX. So it gives us a little tool. We can go in and configure a folder or where to go find the packages. It's going to then enumerate them all out. It'll do some analysis. It'll show you what we have in the way of PSF components and other special things we may have put in the manifest. And we can just right-click and install, but not only the MSIX, but also the AppAttach. And so we can install the AppAttach product locally right here without having to go to any consoles or anything. So you do your package, you fix it up, and then you start this up and you locally test as quickly as you can. Get that process down as fast as we can get it. And then once you've done that, you can run the application. But not only that, we have some debug capabilities built in. So I may want to right-click on that package and look at the file system of the package itself, or browse into where the user redirection data went to take a look at what happened there, or the manifest file. But we can also inject commands inside the package, or do something like this, where we've added a new logging capability in PSF I'll talk about in a second, and I can make a change to it here so I can get the logging enabled that I need directly on here without having to open up the package again. And now I can run my test. And when we do the logging in the PSF now, we use debug view to do the capture on that stuff. But by default, we're kind of putting out the stuff that's just necessary for launching the application, but then we turn all the logging off. That's sort of the default in the new version of the PSF. When we made that change there, we turned on additional logging so we could look at all of the things the PSF itself is doing. So all of the file and registry calls at the runtime of the application are now being logged. So now we can just turn that right on and off. Before, you had to inject a special version of the PSF into your package to do that. Now we have it built right in. So we can just run the application, get this capture, and then what we can do after that. And you can just read it in the debug viewer, if you like. That's a sysinternals tool. But it's a lot of stuff. For any particular file call, there could be up to 20 lines of text in here giving you the details. So it's nice, but I decided we needed to do better. So what I can do is just save this file off to a file on the system here. We'll get a little .log file, and then we'll bring up that second tool that's in the package called parse PSF debug log. And that tool is built to read with this, to work with this file. So we'll go ahead and open that up. And it's going to sort things out by process, so we can see what processes were there, and we've got a lot of events in them. And then we can open up one of these. It's not as fast a tool as I'd like to have at this point, but it gets there eventually. But then we'll start seeing the different events. And what we'll see on each of these events is we're really only going to see 2 lines for any one particular event. We're going to see exactly, here's the request from the application, and here's the result that came back. And it makes it easy to scroll through and find the thing that we're looking for. And then when we want to, or we need to, we can just click the little button on the left there, the expander button, and we can see the detail that went into there. So what was the PSF doing? How did it make its decisions? In the case of this was trying to open up a file. We have to worry about, is that file in the package? Is it in the redirection area? Is it in the native area where that would have been? So say a Windows System32 folder. So we're showing you the logic of how the PSF is making those decisions. So it isn't anything you want to look at all the time, but when you're having an issue, we have the ability to get in at that detailed level and see what's going on and make an adjustment. All right. Okay, if we can just go to the next slide then. There we go. All right. This is the part I love. I don't work for a big corporation. I can say anything I want. So what do I see going forward, right? From my own perspective, I did a lot of work in the last year on the comm stuff that was missing. Roughly a year and a half ago, I had an application like AutoCAD. It would have 900 comm objects in it, and the packaging tool was doing about 200 of them, and the others were being ignored. And we sort of brought that along now. At this point, I've gotten most of the comm into the manifest. There's one particular case that I still don't have, and that's for in-process comm objects that are 32-bit only and were written in managed code, which is like 0.05% of all the applications in the world would have one of those. That's the one left that I have to do. And I'm hoping this winter I'll figure that one out and get that one added in. But most of the rest of the comm is in there. We've also added in this year the ability to do a lot of the old ActiveX stuff. So an app like SAP has a lot of that stuff in there. And it turned out there were a lot of problems that we had to go through and figure out, because those apps work a little bit differently. We also discovered a weird thing, which is that we had been assuming from day one that everything that is comm has to go into the AppX manifest to work under MSIX. And it turns out that's not true. It depends on how the application asks for it. And so a lot of that ActiveX stuff, they actually use some paths that the data has to be in the virtual registry. Now, this may be one of the reasons that some of those old software is not trying to re-release in an MSIX form, because Microsoft never explained that to any of us. So they're probably assuming, because when the developer does it, they usually don't create a virtual registry file. So they're trying to put the stuff in the manifest, and it's not working. That's because they also had to have some of those components in the virtual registry. Now we're learning about that. So hopefully things will get a little bit better there. My intent this winter is to really work on the usability. I've been getting a lot of feedback from the customers, particularly with all these the trainings, of ideas that I had never thought of. And so we're going to try to bring better things in, give them more compatibility with what they're used to seeing in AppV, and trying to make it easier to get more of these packages done rather than trying to get the 100%. That's what I see happening in the near future. The other thing that I see happening is that Microsoft has been doing some things in the OS that you don't necessarily see under the covers. But they really are trying to make this new MSIX format to become the default way that applications install on your operating system. Everything that happens when you take an MSI, or even an AppV application, or a Numescent, or anybody else that's out there, when you're bringing that application down, they want to put a shortcut, for example. That shortcut is going as an LNK file in a folder with everything else, and overwriting things potentially when it happens. Same thing with file association. Same thing with the COM registrations. All of that stuff is going back to the native location. MSIX right now is the only one that Microsoft built into the OS a separate mechanism. So nothing gets overwritten. So we can bring these packages in, we can take them out. We're not going to be breaking things. That was the promise they talked about, and that's where it really comes into play. I'm actually feeling that, like, some of these other vendors that are out there are eventually going to have to be looking to Microsoft for an API to be able to do it that way. Now, right now, they don't have such a thing, but it's something that's probably going to happen, because Microsoft is doing more and more and more with MSIX today. You go to your system, pull out a PowerShell command, type get-appx package, and look at how much is on your system today that you don't even realize is MSIX. It is there, it's coming. They did Teams. Okay, Jim, where are you? We need Office. But, you know, last I heard, they're still working on it.
Hey, you've got the new Outlook.
You got the... Thanks for that, Jim. All right. What about AI? Now, I am enamored with AI, but I am not trying to do anything with AI in my products. Okay? I actually joked out on a webinar I did one time. I said, no, what I do isn't AI. I do real intelligence, which I kind of like that line. But what about AI and MSIX? There are some of the vendors that I had on that screen in there that are using, or at least trying to use, AI for helping you in the packaging process. Personally, I'm not going down that road right now because I think that, I don't think I'd be successful, quite frankly. I think that what we have in a model that AI runs on has to have some very, very clean data to understand exactly what types of advice it should be giving. And I think in our space right now, what we have is a lot of really, really bad data that's out there. If I take any application and I try to do a web search and ask, give me a silent install for this application, I might get something. I probably won't. Because most of the information that's out there is old, it's from an older version, and the blog post that someone said, oh, here's how I do this, they didn't even tell you what version of the app it was, or why they were packaging for, or what technology they were packaging for. So there's just so much bad data out there, and I think it's really hard. But I really hope that these folks that are looking at this and trying to do something to help you with it will be successful, because I think it will be fantastic if they can succeed at that. And I really look forward to the innovations that they'll be coming up with in the next couple of years. So last year I was here, I said, this is the start of year of MSIX. Well, it's a year now, so I can't say that anymore, right? So, okay, fine. It's now the era of MSIX, okay? Now, I used AI to generate that picture. A year ago, I could not get it to give me a coffee cup that did not have cream in it. And I got to tell you, for me, cream in coffee, it would be like probably putting blueberry in your beer, okay? But this year, even AI is getting better. I got a black cup of coffee finally. All right. How am I doing on time? That was my slide deck. Wow, I did that way too fast. Cool, we got time for questions. All right, questions. Come on, Jim, help me out. Give me a question. Oh, I only have 5 minutes. Okay, yes.
So you said that, AI is not a good option because of all the bad data. Do you think that that is like the biggest limiter? Like if you would have lots of clean data with your code, you could do more with AI?
Oh, absolutely. Okay, I'm sorry. Yes, repeat the question. Thank you. So the question was, I said that I thought AI isn't a good fit because we have so much bad data. And the question was, if we had good data, do I think AI would be a good fit? And I think the answer is absolutely. I think there's a ton of things that we could do that would really help this process if we could pull that off. So are you working on that?
Well, I just joined Recast 3 months ago as VP engineer. And just like you, I'm very enamored with AI, so I absolutely am looking at what is possible.
Cool. Good luck with it. Yeah, let us know how that goes. Yes?
I hope you don't take offense, but who decides the GUIs for your product?
I have a junior engineer by the name of Tim who does that. Yeah, I know. I don't have the best GUIs in the world.
Any plans on getting that better than it is right now?
Use the command line. Come on. They are consistent with the previous tools. Good answer. I think the colors are better than I usually do, though. I used to do really bad colors. Okay. Good feedback, though.
Have you thought about writing a Crescendo PowerShell module to wrap your command line in?
Repeat it.
Have I thought about...
So Crescendo is a PowerShell framework where you can wrap command line tools in PowerShell so it will work properly with automation and give you proper objects. So you could wrap all of your command line tools with a Crescendo PowerShell module and you could make them all PowerShell for almost for free.
Okay, have I thought about that? The actual answer will be no. I've never heard of Crescendo, actually, Jim. You got to tell me about that more. But that's an interesting idea. Okay. I like it. Okay, repeat the question. Thank you. The question was whether or not I thought about wrapping the, providing a PowerShell module using something called Crescendo to wrap up the command line interfaces for the fix-ups. Okay, got it. Got it. Do I have to do Pester too?
No.
Thank you. All right. Well, if there are no more questions, oh, well, here's one.
What third-party packaging tool do you consider to be the best one, most complete one?
I don't think it matters, quite frankly. I'm sorry, the question was, thank goodness my wife is here. The question was, what packaging tool do I think is the most, what was the word?
The most complete, best one?
The most complete, best tool. I think they all have their values. You know, I think in particular, if you're used to using one of those tools, you probably just want to stay with that tool, right? So I can't say that I would pick any one over the others. All right. Well, why don't we break for lunch? I'm here all day. Feel free to grab me in a corner and bend my ear.